everyone. We're going to talk about Leticia. My real life has been keeping me from doing the ubis of the tubis, so I'm herebis of the nowbis. That must be my... Nope. Nope, it's someone trying to grift me. Can you believe that? Well, hello, Smelly. Smelly, a grifter on the internet is trying to grift me, and I was going to respond to it, but I guess I'll just do that later. I've been having a decent enough time here, let me get chat up, living my best life, and I was just thinking something silly. You'll have to excuse me for just a second. Hello, let it go. Oh, let me get chat up. Okay, volume's down. But yes, Leticia has been very Leticia-ish. And in reality, at this point, I'm having a hard time keeping up with her uploads because I'm not putting much time into YouTube. But there are certain things that she says that will get me to hit the live button as soon as I can. And she said one today. I sat here for 5 minutes trying to title this live because every title of the live, I'm like, if I title it that, it will probably get pulled down. And then I readjusted it, and then, when I looked at it, I'm like, that would get pulled down too. And that's why I had to title the live like I did, because literally every title could have flagged a bot. I mean, Sheba said today that babies should have a 1-year test drive, basically. She didn't put it as a test drive, but that is actually what she meant. Because she said that a mother should be able to dispose of her baby in a horrible fashion anywhere up to a year. Oh, no, it wasn't. Now, if she had thought of it, it would have been. But, the thing is content for kids don't get promoted. YouTube did that because, the rules are ridiculous. And the reason why they made content not shareable is they're afraid that bad people will look at children in an inappropriate format. They just go so overboard on YouTube and Twitter and all these fucking psycho sites. I can't stand them. And that's why I am never seriously putting effort to grow channels again. Fuck these people. When they're taken out of power and YouTube sold, I'll consider doing YouTube and trying to grow a larger channel. But, until then, they can go fuck themselves. Now, on a side note, what other people are wondering, you see, on some of my stock accounts, I have a different theme on them. Keep shit I don't really want to see out of my main feeds. And I went to one, now see, the Grimgoth channel was on one of these channels. That's why it's got a lot earlier date than, it actually started uploading, because the Grimgoth channel was one of these sock accounts. And I have probably not looked at it like 8 or 9 months. And I went through that sock account subscriptions, and I went, oh my God, this account at the time, I almost said its old name, but I probably had about 200 channel subscriptions on it. There are only about 70 now. So YouTube has been going around and quietly nuking the hell out of channels. And no doubt all the glitch where everyone lost channels and me was a part of their going around mass getting rid of channels under the radar. And the only reason why I mentioned it in this live is because we fucking watched Leticia. Now you see, the majority of these channels, they were not monetized because their content wasn't, how shall we put it, the familiest of friendly. And they probably knocked out 70% of those channels I was subscribed to on that account. So, when you can't find someone, you'll know that they got nailed in the purge. Hello, Mimi. But apparently, YouTube is only caring about what money gets put in Google's pocket. They're also, I had predicted this, preparing YouTube to be sold. And you're going to see a lot of fucked up things about them. And you're going to see them not care about anything. And I'm also framing this now because a lot of people here are going to get mad about Leticia's content. I mean, like today, saying that people should be able to, your baby up to a year. Like I say, for bots, I have to be careful with my words and use silly euphemisms or things that, I would consider would be off color for the topic to protect myself. So any flippancy that you see regarding a hard subject is just to protect me. Summer, are you coming over here or not? You hopped up on the table. Summer, are you coming? We're on YouTube. YouTube, Summer. She's like, I'm going to sit here and wash. She's like, I thought about giving you attention, but I'd rather sit here and wash. We'll let it go. Sometimes, I would say this just in a private DM between us, but it really don't matter here. There's only 15 of us here to begin with on a Sunday day. Some people need eyes kept on them. And in this case, everyone is free to do as they wish. I don't encourage anything, but in my personal opinion, she needs eyes kept on her. And that's the only reason why I am going to continuously cover this train wreck monster. Hello, Brenda. How are you? I'm glad to see you. Because there's been a few regulars I've not seen on YouTube anywhere, and you were one of them. And people that I care about, it does make me worry a little bit. But I also know people have lives, phones get damaged, and I should mostly keep to myself, and I'm very glad to see you, Brenda. And I also understand that sometimes this kind of subject matter gets hard and people need to look away or just step away. Kind of like me and the large girl content. Because all that is they know they're lying and they do it to make you mad, to make them clicks, to make them money. And YouTube enables them. Because YouTube is going to enable anything on one political bent. Because that's the way Google is. So, but the thing is where Leticia puts herself out as a victim. You notice, it's like today, in her little thing, she was saying that people knew she was, well, I forgot how she put it, but she danced around it. But basically was saying because she was part Mexican, people were discriminating against her. And I'm looking at her like, my American Indian part of me is a lot darker than Leticia's lily white ass. All right. Oh, that just makes me do this. Now, there are a couple of, genetics floats around, and I am typically a little bit darker than the other members of my family. Now, some of the McCoys, a couple of the females, they have full Native American type skin. I kind of go from Irish to Native American depending on the time of year. When February and March, I'm like at my whitest. And then, as it goes on, as one of the McCoys said, well, you are kind of dark. But, I transitioned that. But she's trying to say that everyone knows that I wouldn't have known she had Mexican ancestry unless she told me. And, I've not said this here, but it actually turns out I didn't find out about my Cherokee ancestry until I turned 30. It was a dirty secret in my family. And when people went back, because, I had an aunt that did genealogy, and then another person did my father's side, and we got the info from that. And, I was like, you lying son of a bitches. It turned out there was a lot of fibbing going on about whose genes was who in my family. But, when we started digging all this stuff up, it's like, you lying bastards. So, I didn't even know that I used to say I was a third this, but it actually turns out I'm quarters. And I didn't find that out till I was 30. But, Leticia, everything is, and she wants compensated for everything. Like today. Let me see. We got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I have 3 days and 1 spaghetti dinner. And she's on disability and at the end of the month smoking pot and eating high on the hog because she's grifting people using that baby. And now, I also want to hit you up with another thing. She is always going to be pregnant. Always, if she's pregnant or not. And she will just keep sleeping around because, now, when I grew up in Cincinnati, the magic for a woman was 2. You pop out 2 kids, and you got free everything and got to sit on your ass. Now, this was a different time. This was, before Bill Clinton was president, and they had welfare reform at the time. But, at the time when I was growing up, they just had to pop out 2, they basically got a free ride. They got a few $100 stipend, which was equal to a minimum wage job. They got their free housing. They got food stamps. More than enough. That was back then. And that's the kind of thing that, shall we say, her ancestors did. Now, you notice she never talks about grandparents. Because I guarantee that grandma was the same kind of slut as mom, which is the same kind of slut as Leticia. One that just uses. Now, once again, before genetics, it was kind of subjective on who daddies were. And there were many of a man that had to pay for some bum's kid because she was sleeping with a dozen, and whenever they got knocked up and tried to get someone for child support, they always went after the most well-to-do. Well, genetic testing, starting in the 90s, kind of fucked that free ride for them. But prior generations to her, they got this free ride. And if you look at her age, and you go backwards, you can see her mom fell in this category too. And you also see Leticia's skin color. So, in reality, I believe that some poor Mexican immigrant was the best his mom could do. And I really probably doubt that Leticia's father is probably even her father. Much like Leticia, in my opinion, it's probably just some Irish John from the street. Because I can see a certain amount of Irish in her. And that's the only reason why I say Irish, because I am a quarter Irish. I like Leticia to be nothing that I am. I want her to be 100% fucking Martian. But, we're going to have to put up with the Leticia. And I've noticed she's toned back a bit. She's been watching everything about her, and that's all she does. Roger's been doing Rogery thing, and Roger's kind of tired too. I mean, this is how I feel. But, I had my weekend, and, I've had my private time that I don't bring to YouTube because, it's none of YouTube's business. But I do want to tell Rich Life my dick hurts. I just wanted to say that to taunt him. I mean, that is kind of petty of me. Well, actually more than kind of petty. Yes, it's very petty. Matter of fact, it's totally petty. But I'm going to go with it because, he likes to show his food. And at the end of he's been doing that lately. And as I said, I have one spaghetti dinner and I can eat it today, I can eat it tomorrow, or I can eat it on Tuesday. So, that's pretty much my life. Well, you guys probably don't remember it, but I said that Saturday, I said this a week ago, that this Saturday I wasn't going to be on YouTube. That I was going to be having a good time, and I did. And once again, I don't have to try to bring anything to YouTube because my life is my life. Well, yeah, on an inspirational note, man, I mean, as I said, I have one spaghetti dinner, and I have freedom. I can eat that spaghetti dinner today, I can eat it tomorrow, or I can eat it Tuesday. But, Leticia, the thing with Leticia, my food, I can eat a whole day for $4 to $6. I can eat $4 to $6 a day. Leticia has been going and buying $15 to $20 of basically nice vegan restaurant food every day. And she's on disability making the same amount I am. Because of the pregnancy, she has so many simps that are funding her on the side. And she had pot today. That's amazing. And she also said today that whenever she goes on her YouTube talks, she's high. So that means she's smoking 3 bowls at least every day, which is going to be at least 3 grams, 3 to 4. So she's basically smoking about 1/8 a day. She is also this way telling me she's lying about how much she's getting and how much weed she's getting when she gets it. Hello, WB. That's what I was able to glean out of today. Now, she doesn't have gas because she's living up high on the hog, but as she said, God will provide. That's her religious grift. When I was starving out here in the barn, you know what God fucking did? Fucking zero. Several times I did run into godly people that said their church would help me. And you know how much help I got? Zero! I was left out there to die, and before I got my disability, I was Eugenia Cooney with some muscles. Because I still had to walk for water. I was a walking skeleton on these roads, and not one motherfucker would or will help me. But because Leticia says she's pregnant and she's got a baby, I mean, the flat out thing is, she's fat. Not only is she having a baby, but she has decided to get morbidly obese for her comfort. Hi, Craig. Hello, Sage. This is, the end of the month, and with the way food prices went, I had it a few months ago to where I was just making even. To where, I was going to have something to eat every day. I didn't even put my P.O. box. This year, I've only put up my P.O. box once. And that was when someone decided to call me a grifter. So I said, okay, on my unmonetized channel, and then I put my P.O. box and did this to him. You know, that's the one time I put my P.O. box up this entire year, and I'm starving. You know, she watches all of this shit. I walked 10 miles to the store, well, round trip. You know, 5 miles there, 5 miles back, and I have to carry everything back in a pack. The first, I get one ride to the dollar store. And that's what I'm waiting on Wednesday. You know, Wednesday morning, a dude will show up here. And he's going to take me to the dollar store. And I'll be able to get some food then. I took everything that I had left because Ashley came here last week when they fished. And she ran me to the dollar store. And I got every dime that I could in food. And I also got 60 more pounds of cat food. Now, once again, if I hadn't bought the 60 pounds of cat food, I would be eating now. But as I have always said, the cats come first. And because of that, and Shannon trying to get hate mobs to come after my pets, lying about it, you know, I will fuck anyone on YouTube up in real life that wants to get involved in my life. Yes, I will. I will fuck them up beyond their imaginations. I will destroy their entire lives and laugh as I do it. But, you know, these are people that attack me regularly, and all I'm doing is trying to entertain you. And that's why they do it, because they don't like what I have to say. Different stage, I don't have a PayPal. And you know what the matter is? I have a channel under appeal that has over 3,000 subscribers. I never monetized it. Because in my opinion, see, this is Roger philosophy. Once upon a time before the modern day, an entertainer, he didn't get money. He only got money for actually entertaining. And usually it was dinner. You know, all these famous artists throughout time, they usually only got dinner for performing. And that's all I think a YouTuber's worth. You know, if you like a YouTuber and you like their content and you want to put them on, tip them enough to buy a meal. That's all I have ever said on YouTube. Well, WB, the thing is I do have some help. I just have no way to get it right now. Now, I don't know what's in my P.O. box, but I've not been able to get to my P.O. box this entire year. So, I have, well, 5 months of things in my P.O. box, and I can't get to it unless I want to walk about 44 miles. Or pay $60 for an Uber ride to maybe get $20 out of the box. But, you know, and the only reason that I'm saying this here now is I am putting out the comparison between me and Leticia. Because my disability is for complex PTSD. I've been left here to die. But you don't see, but that was by the state in the services. You know, some of you guys do help me out, and I really appreciate it. But you don't see me taking all of that bullshit I have to deal with on this side to you, because you didn't do it. None of you did. Now, the ones like Shannon that try to attack me and lie, because once again, I'm always honest on what the channel has been donated. And this channel, so far in my hand, has been donated $165 this year. And what did Roger do with it? I bought food and stored it up. Because on that end of the month, like right now, I would buy food, take my donations, once again, buy food, and then the end of the month, like when things would come like right now, I would have food. Might have to do without medicine for a few days, because, you know, I can't take regular medicine, and for my seizures, I do have to smoke pot. Now, the fact of the matter is, this phone right here, right now, I could have it delivered. Right now. No questions asked. I pay later. But you see, it would eventually have to be paid. And once again, Leticia wants compensation. So, they are good enough. I mean, if I wanted my medication right now, I mean, I just call and it would be here. We're at worst this evening. No questions asked. But, I would have to pay for it at some point. And that would come out of my food. There's a certain level of responsibility. Now, once again, covering the fat chicks, I did learn something. Throughout my life, years before, I had the same trouble with weight that everyone else did. The up, down, up and down. And I go hungry a fair amount of the time, but the reality is I am almost at my ideal weight. I am about 2 pounds over my ideal weight. Because you see, man was not meant to have 3 big meals a day. Man was supposed to only have a really big meal every few days, and you were just supposed to have a bite here and there. And that's what reality of man's supposed to be. Now, the other day when I got those 2 pounds of hamburgers, I made taco meat over here in the crock pot. And that for about 4 days. Normal a half a pound, tortilla, a little bit of cheese on top. And, I had tacos for 4 days. And the hamburger was $6 a pound now. So, with the cheese. So for $20, I ate 4 days. And you hear Leticia, she's going out and eating $20 a day. And as I said, $20 feeds me 4 days. I do not have anything that's accessible. The bank account is gone. For multiple reasons. I mean, you have to have a bank account to have a PayPal, and I don't have a bank account currently anymore. I did until about 6 months ago. But, it is what it is. And, my ex-girlfriend, once again, I don't go on. You know how Leticia goes about exes. Now, Let It Go knows a little bit about my ex here. She's still behind the scenes trying to cause trouble. I found evidence of it in a few places, and one of them was with my bank. I mean, she was an evil cunt. And I'm not supposed to say that word on YouTube, and I apologize for doing it, but I could not think of any short adjective, to go. I mean, the spitefulness and the vindictiveness of this woman. When she would want to argue, this is something she would say, I always win. And she would always type it in all capital letters. I always win. And when people do that, I ask, what did you win? I mean, if you won something, you should be able to tell me, what did you win? So, I have a vindictive psycho going on behind the scenes trying to do everything she can to destroy me without her daughter knowing. Because the agreement was between all of us, I leave you alone, you leave me alone. And I guarantee her daughter doesn't know that she's still trying to go behind the scenes, lying. Now, she's also going over here to Shannon's channel. And also my ex-girlfriend she is rich. And she did threaten to send people to kill me. And I said, bring it fucking on, you stupid bitch. And if anyone shows up here, I do YouTube unfriendly things. And I've already talked to my local law enforcement because you see, here, there's a different way you handle things. Mountain John, you made up, you called the police. No. I talked to the police. You see, here, calling the police and talking to the police is two different things. You give them their problem, and then they give you your ground rules. And I went, okay. And I went, wow, this is more power than I want. I basically showed some of the local constabulary, the YouTube issues, and Melton threatened to shoot through my house, and Melton threatening to shoot my neighbor, and, other people, because everyone here knows that I take better care of animals than everyone else around here. Common knowledge. And I show that thing too, and anybody that shows up here gets to see Jesus. Yep, anybody that shows up here had better be fucking straight with Jesus. Let's just put it that way. But, these are YouTube things that I deal with. But do I come and tell you that everyone is evil? There are conspiracies out to get me. No, there's a bunch of assholes that don't like me, that want to go overboard, that, okay, we can fucking do that, bring it on, bitches. And I am open about my past. I mean, now, I can get away with this, but this right here, I don't know how many heads I busted with this. I mean, I really don't know. It's a large amount. More than a few. They've all been men of varying ages. I mean, I've had this since I was 18 years old, and it used to actually be maroon. But, the paint has come off of it over time, and this is what I used to carry in my car with me. But, I meet bad people all the time. I don't project that bad on you. Now, there's bad on YouTube that does attack me, but that's not everyone. The majority of YouTube is 100% innocent. Well, I'm not seeing it. Let it go. Oh, I have a Direct Express card. That's what I get my money on. In fact, my card is about to die. It's on the end of its expiration. And because of the way that they've screwed it up, I'm going to have to, this is the plan for next month. I call Social Security and find out, when are you sending out my new card? Because that's going to go to the P.O. box. And as everyone remembers, I'll have to walk to that. So, I'm basically going off sidetrack now. But because they issue me a new card this year, I don't know when that card comes. I just know that in a few months my card expires. So, next month, later in the month, or the beginning, well, let me see, July 4th weekend, I better do it towards the end of June. I'll have to call Social Security, and then I'll have to ask them, when is my new card going to be in my P.O. box? And when they tell me it's there, I'm going to have to put on the shoes and put on the backpack and grab the light, and I'm going to have to walk for 2 days. And when that happens, I'll be able to get everything out of my P.O. box. But for 5 months, I've been trying to get a ride to that P.O. box. And no one will help you. I mean, it's just the way it is. Yes, that was someone on Hangouts that was trying to get my attention, and yeah, I am kind of busy. I guess I can return in just a minute, everyone. Yeah, I'm Now, right there, see, Leticia, we've talked about her ego states to get what she wants. I went through 4 ego states just typing that little thing. Because I had to think, what do I want to say back? And once again, someone says, I guess you're busy. And I am busy. So, I typed out, Magus ego state is not very, the one that explains, he's less than compassionate. So, I went through the Magus ego state, the night ego state, I went through my core ego state, because once again, I have to think of what I want to say, and then I go to the core ego state for emotion, and think of it in the most compassionate way. And I also had the rattlesnake showed up, because it's none of their damn business I'm doing a live stream. I just put that I'm entertaining at the moment. And it's a grifter. But you see, I'm even going to be cordial to a grifter, because my main goal here is to entertain myself. So this grifter trying to grift me, I'm going to be completely polite, and I'm going to see what they want, and I'm going to run them into a giant circle again and again and again and again and again and again for my amusement. Now, one, by doing this, I am keeping this grifter from trying to grift someone else. And two, I'm amusing myself. Well, yeah, let it go. And that's the issue right now is, it's been walkie or naughty. And I've been trying to round up a ride there, but I can't get Ashley to do it. You remember how I said I live center of 6 communities? Well, they live in like a community over here, and the community we need to go to is like over here. So it's on the other side of existence for them. That's why I said if I have transportation, I live in the perfect place, because it's equal distance to everywhere. Now, someone else, if they need something from a specific spot, may actually have to drive, an hour and a half. But, as I mentioned, I am quite, or more, but, I am quite center of everything, which is an advantage in its own way. Well, the thing is anything that's in the P.O. box, what I'll do, just like before, I will stock up on extra stuff. It will go in a cabinet, and then, like when I'm short, like right now, that's when it comes out. I'm very meticulous, but, I do, and thank you for all the help that you have given me. I mean, I really do appreciate it. Like I say, I normally budget well, but this whole inflation thing, wow, I mean, I went to the store, the last 2 months, and I mean, if there was anybody I could sleep with for food at this point, I would. But, that's a Leticia privilege, where she talks about all these privileged people. Now, another thing that I kind of joke about is where Leticia thinks that all these people have these super privileges. My family, before they all died, were involved in dirty politics. I mean, I know all of the inside dirty on political everything. I mean, and I'm very jaded about the political system because of it. And the only thing that it does for me is fixes my court case. I mean, every court case I have ever had in my lifetime has been shaded in my favor. And I have proof of every one of them except the last one, but it was just too damn easy to get out of felony charges. I mean, once again, it was kind of like Princess Leia after escaping the Death Guard. The ease of our escape, they let us go. So, that's the only thing that my privilege does for me. But now, I can't go out and do anything horrible. I can't get out of that. I can't go out and be wantonly harmful to anyone and get away with it. But, on your typical things that a cop might get you for or try to get you for, I'm not going to be convicted. But, that don't get me any other privilege. Nope, 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 nope. No, it doesn't. And that only was corruption privilege. Because you see, my entire family was doing naughty things that they shouldn't be. And in the Southern way is you tell your son what you're doing and the inside details. Because if your bosses sell you out in the South, then your son is your avenger. And me being the only survivor in the family, you know, I know everyone's dirty business. Well, yeah, let it go. You know, that's typically how it is. Now, it's like with Ashley. Whatever her man wants to do. You know, Ashley promised me rides in the, you know, where we talked about rides in the, you know, in DM, where he talked about I got promised a ride to the grocery. What it ends up, Ashley would promise me a ride to the store, and then her husband just wouldn't feel like it that day or wanted to do anything else. And that is the way it is. If they'll promise you everything, they'll never say no. But when it comes down to doing it, if there's anything else they'd rather do that day, they go do that. Welcome to Kentucky. Oh man, the grifter's getting mad. Says, I can't stand you ignoring my messages. Now, you see, this is, you know, much like your little Leticia. I mean, matter of fact, we might end up making this into a humorous video depending on what happens. We'll let it go. Ashley is a female. You know, given the fact that Ashley used to be a guy's name in my youth and not a girl's name, you know, I thought I'd best say that. And Ashley is married now. Now, when I met Ashley, she wasn't married, and they were just boyfriend and girlfriend, and she's living around Mount Vernon way now. But she helped me with a part of my disability. Because as a part of my disability, I had to have people that had witnessed me having seizures. And Ashley has witnessed me having seizures. So, you know, she filled out that part of the paperwork. Now, an interesting thing that I learned then, you know, when we were filling that out, because I was like, 5 to 6 minutes. And she's like, her hand on my shoulder, like, no. That wasn't 5 or 6 minutes. You were having a seizure for about 20 minutes. And I went, whoa. And that was when I learned that my perception of a seizure length and the actual seizure length, no. You know, I can't trust my own perception how long my seizure was. You know, I kind of need to try to look at a clock or figure it out because, you know, my typical seizure was 3 times as long as I thought it was. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not paying all attention. I'm thinking. But, you know, talking about my P.O. Box, you know, I only did talk about this right now because, you know, I'm comparing me to Leticia, you know. In reality, I'm going to be fine. You know, these next few days, I get a little bit hungry. I've got those 2 pounds to lose anyway. You know, because once again, I'm counting my blessings. You know, the guy that brings me my medicine, that takes me to Dollar General on the 1st, and I'm able to get my cat food because it's so heavy. And some stuff for me. Now, Wednesday, he's also going to take me to the local spring. And I'll be able to get about 20 gallons of spring water. Actually, I think I'll be able to get about 25. I forgot, I got another cooler cleaned. The one we used to work with. And I'll be able to get about 25 gallons of amazing water that you would pay probably $5 or $6 a gallon for. And I'm going to get that Wednesday. No, I can't take a check because I have no way to a bank and no longer any bank account. Unfortunately. And that was one reason why I had made that bank account, was so I could do, you know, at least a little banking. But apparently they changed their minimums, and my ex-girlfriend trying to claim that I robbed her somehow. Because, you see, this is another one of the things. Now, Because, watcher, I have seizures. And I'm here alone on 20 acres. If I have a seizure next to the pond, I can end up in the pond and drown fucking dead. Now, anyone else that says anything stupid is gone. Okay. If people are here, I can go to the pond. If people are not here, I can't get near the pond. For my own safety. Actually, Ronnie, I could use yeast for bread. I could. I mean, I'm not able to buy it around here. And I found a recipe for being able to use beer instead of yeast. And I can't even get beer. But you know, I also forage for food. I've got several fruit trees back here. I have a grape arbor. And in reality right now, thinking about it, if I want to forage, I can have all the wild onions I can eat. No one's going to want to kiss me after, but you know, thinking about it, you know, that kind of is not sounding bad. And what I do is take my universal tool right here and go up to the onions and pop them right out of the ground. I also cook with this, by the way. Because you see, like, see these right here? You open the stove and the hot racks, you just reach in and grab it and you can pull your racks right out with this. So, you know, this is a kitchen tool. And when I go out and cook over a fire, this is my kitchen tool. It's about 1 foot long. Well, thanks, Craig, but I have no way there. I've been trying to get a ride there for 5 months. I've had a ride promised 3 times. As you can see, I'm not there yet. But as it stands with the plan right now, next month I call Social Security and I find out when my new Direct Express card is going to be in my box. And when they tell me it's going to be, I'm going to wait a couple weeks because we know how Social Security is. And then I'm going to strap on that pack, put on, and like this here, a subscriber sent me this some time ago. It's a power pack. It's also solar powered. And it also has an amazing light on it that will last over 8 hours. So when I have to walk in the dark, this is what I use. You know, I just flip it up like this, flip it on, and I go right down those old country roads in the middle of the night. And when anything's coming, I flip off my light so I won't blind them, and I get off the road as best I can. Or if I can't get far enough, I take my light and I shine it up like this so they see it going up in the air. Well, actually, it's rained here. I've got 50 gallons of fresh water on the deck. It's just, the temperature right now is 79 degrees. And tomorrow it's going to be 86. And the day after, 88. And that will ruin all of my water. So like right now, I can go right out there to the bucket and I can drink as much as I want. And tomorrow, during the day, I can drink as much as I want. But because of the 80-some degrees and the fact that the low is 60s. Now you see, if the lows get in the 50s, that water will keep. You know, a lot of the YouTube people don't understand it because they're dumbasses and don't know anything about survivalists. But yeah, sometime Monday night or Tuesday morning, I'll have to dump my buckets. And before then, I will, like today, I will take several gallons of water and I will boil it for the animals and I will put in 2-liter bottles that I have sitting around. And that will be plenty of fresh water until the next rain for the animals. But, I live, in an older lifestyle because I have to. But, I think, I do. I don't immediately, the reason why I'm going through this all too, and me today, is because I don't sit here and say, God will provide. When my father started starving me at 6 to 13, but to try to break me, as a 6-year-old, I wanted God to help me. I wanted anyone to help me. And you know what? God didn't give a fuck. And God didn't help me. I helped myself. Now, as a 6-year-old, I went and did yard chores for people. I did anything that I could to earn $1 as a small child so I could get something to eat for those several years. Now, if I couldn't eat, I'd steal out of your garden. And when I got tired of stealing tomatoes to eat, I learned that I could steal tomatoes, sell to the old people, and then buy better food, the food to sustain me. And by the time I was 8 or 9 years old, I'd go through any window I could and raid your cupboards. But I would only take a few things. Because once again, that empathetic part of me didn't want anyone else to starve. Or wouldn't take your valuables. Now you see, as a child, if I broke into your house, I would not take your money. I would take your food. Because once again, if I took your money, that would be wrong because I would be hurting you like I was hurting. Now, I went through all the therapy with this, and now that I understand my father more, oh God, he's so lucky. I mean, young, I made so much excuses for him. But when it came down to therapy, and I realized that this was all done as a methodical way to break me, I would have just did jail time. Let's put it that way. Like, jugs, that's what I'm going to get my fresh water in on Wednesday. And this is about Leticia, it's not about me. I've got 50 gallons of fresh water on the deck. I had another fresh tub for laundry, but some cat decided to go on one of my blankets. And that blanket is out there being washed right now, and I'm guessing it was that wild mother. That wild mother that has kittens in here? And God did not have... Now, once again, if I was Leticia, I would have put that wild mother and her kittens outside and say, God will take care of them. But no, they're over here in a box. So, I'm sure it was that wild cat that peed on my comforter. And once again, I can't stop it. But, it's out there right now. Well, I just basically need to pull it out and dry it. And then fill up the thing with some more water to do some more laundry. Well, let's see the thing. For several years, I sat back and said, I'm going to follow the system and follow the rules. And I was abandoned. I was left to die. And people on YouTube even mocked me for it. Well, now, personally, I'm going to go out and actualize myself. Not going to go bring any of it to YouTube. Some of it might not even be YouTube friendly. But, I'm going out to better myself however I can. Now, of course, I'm going to try to better myself in the right way. This year, I am putting out what I can of a garden. And I'm learning my mistakes this year. And next year, I will have a much more successful garden. Because it's going behind the barn. I discovered that. But, that is what it is. But Leticia, once again, God's going to do that. I learned from 6 to 13 that God was not going to help me. And at 8 years old, my school cut out school lunches. So for 6 and 7, I at least got a school lunch. And when I was 8 years old and they said no more school lunches, as a little kid right then, I had a panic attack. Once I turned 12 years old, I never had a panic attack in that. Now, when I had got my gallbladder out, I had at 2015, I had a moment of anxiety, but that wasn't a panic attack. And that was the last time I felt anxiety. It was 2015. Well, no, take that back. 2013. Excuse me, I had my year wrong. I was mistaken. So, I have not had any real anxiety in a bunch of years. But you see, whenever Leticia has anxiety, she calls it a panic attack. Now, at 8 years old, that was a panic attack. I couldn't breathe as a kid. It's like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because if I couldn't turn up any money, that school lunch was all that I got. And that was 9 months out of the year. Well, actually, they do have Dollar General cards. And I recently used the one that I had. Now, my former therapist, the really good one, on her very last session, she gave me a $12 Dollar General card. And you remember how I said because of the price increases, last month and this month? And I used that last month. The card that she had gave me, the $12. I used that then to buy me, and as I said, earlier today, $12, I can stretch that out to $4 a day. So, that fed me for 3 days. And I'm only talking about me because, once again, Leticia eats these $15 salads and several other things during the day, making her daily food costs around sinuses, I had to spit. $22 to $25. Somewhere around that. And as I said, for me, I can eat off $4 a day and maintain weight. Not building muscle, but, I can do my chores and I can live off about $4 a day food. And, well, with now you got to say 4 to 6 with inflation, but, that's typically it. Well, everything, Dollar General's all I can go to. If I could go to a grocery, I could do a lot better off, but, well, nobody gives a fuck, and right now, gas is so expensive. In the last 2 months, if I had someone willing to do it, I couldn't afford to pay them. Because I'd have to pay them $20-some in gas to go to a grocery. If I had a car right now, I'd be in real trouble. I would. I wouldn't be able to afford the gas for it. So, when I'm walking, I do count that as a blessing in its own little way. But, Leticia, God and everything is supposed to hand it to her. Once again, as a child, I knew that God wasn't coming. God never fed me as a starving child one day. Ever. Nope. Hello, Sig. Well, Sig, I'll have to find out about that, and if Coates is, once again, when I came, you've known me for a while, Sig, there was the A or the B way of doing things. And the A way was the nice way. And that was abused on YouTube, and so we do things the B way. And if Gnome does stuff like that, then I'm going to start tracking the Gnome, and at some point it's going to get pretty nasty for the gnome, because if the gnome doesn't have its ride, the gnome has to go back in with Mommy. Because you see, Roger believes in justice. And the fact that Coates comes up to here on me, the judge wouldn't look at... Because see, someone like Coates that mouths off to me, what I do is I grab them. And then I lift them up and I say, when you say that to me, look me in the eyes. And I kind of do it in a Grimgoth way. Because some of my characters, I exaggerate them. But some of it comes from my real life. And that's, look me in the eyes when you say that to me, little man. Because once again, if he does say that, then I have them here and he just goes zing in that direction. Because I can get away with that. But yeah, I'll be looking into that, and like I say, and matter of fact, if I find that I believe it's the case, we'll be live later. About 9-ish. Yeah, we will. And that live will be 18 plus. Yes. Now, I know that Sig is probably 100% right. I have to do some verification myself. But, there's certain people that I can kind of say when they come in my chat and say something, it's 90-some% so, or they're mistaken because of some other reason. So I would say that it's likely so. Well, the thing is, Ronnie, Kitten Cat goes around and does things for Coates behind the scenes. See, once again, Coates likes to be handoff, but that smells to me like Kitten Cat's fucking stink. Now, once again, I'm not judgmental, but, I am of the guy that anybody that wants to piss in my pond, we will go real life, because this is the V-way. That was abused. Now, once again, Leticia only has the Leticia way, which is you grift for Leticia. And you see, Leticia doesn't think of anyone else but herself in the communities. And I'm more than willing to go out of the way and get myself into trouble if I think that it's right. Well, the lovely Desiree was with me yesterday, so, I had mentioned that over a week before that no one was going to see me on Saturday. So I'm way behind on my YouTube, and the only thing, I've not even got to watch all of Leticia's Today stuff. I just watch most of it. So yeah, I'll be somewhere, I won't say exactly when, but somewhere where I'll be about 9-ish for a Boyd Live. Somewhere between maybe 8 and 10:30. Because once again, it's all going to depend on my life. Because today out there is looking like a damn beautiful day now that it's turned afternoon. The morning it was kind of dark and a bit dewy. But actually right now it's looking to be a lovely day out there, and I'm going to go out and do my work here in a bit. But but once again, Leticia, I'll die before I work. Now, looking at her nails, I can believe it. I mean, girls, can you imagine living in your car and not breaking a nail? I mean, in my lifetime, that is one of the places that break their nails the most. Especially when they're driving, hitting, getting in, hitting the steering wheel or stuff. Adjusting the seat. Damn, I broke a nail was, a common thing for me to hear in my life from my female friends. Because in Cincinnati, I did have many female friends. So this also, one thing that I've not talked about. Here there are a couple sets of people named Brian and Ashley as couples. These are not the people that I mentioned earlier in the live. This is a different set. Well, this Brian was a feeder. And this Ashley is morbidly obese, the feedee. They had 3 children that they neglected, and they basically used these 3 children to grift 3 years everyone around them, including me. Now, she had one woman to help her, make her feel better. And this one more well-to-do woman would buy stuff for the kids, and she would take Ashley to get her nails done. Once again, this isn't the Ashley we talked about earlier in the lives. This is a different Ashley. And once again, there's a reason she keeps going to Little Rock. She has someone putting her up. When you see her car cleaned and no crap in it, she has a bed that night. And she's sleeping at a woman's house. And that woman does her nails. And she keeps Leticia's nails looking long and pretty. I don't know if it's her personal skill or like this Ashley B. She gets that paid for by her, and she gets to go to a salon once in a while. Well, the thing is, P.O. Box are easy. I could get a P.O. Box anywhere. In fact, in hindsight, I probably should have got my P.O. Box in Mount Vernon. Yep. I should have got my P.O. Box in Mount Vernon. The reason why I picked Eubank is at the time I had peer support, and coming back from Somerset, it would just be a slightly longer swing, and I could stop by that P.O. Box in Eubank. But in reality, I should have got that P.O. Box in Mount Vernon. Because Mount Vernon's closer. And by 4 miles. And sometimes I could get a ride, like if I wanted to walk from Mount Vernon now, if I hung out at people's houses long enough, I could probably get a ride back. It might take me a day or two and pay them the gas. But, if I was in Mount Vernon right now and I just sat around, and it's likely that if I go to Mount Vernon, 50-50, I can have 1 or 2 places to crash. I don't know where everyone's living now, but, just running across people I know on the street, there's at least a 50-50 that, I could crash someplace in Mount Vernon whenever I wanted to. Well, there you go, my child is in Ohio, but, I'm here in Kentucky. And the mother is in Kentucky, too. It's just we're in different regions of Kentucky. I was surprised when I found out that. I'm like, she's living in Kentucky, too? But yes, the mother of my child's living in Kentucky. My child's living in Ohio. In a place that I used to be every weekend. Actually, right around the corner practically every weekend. And I'm not going to tell you where. But it's a nice Cincinnati suburb. I'm happy for my daughter's life. She has a good life. She has achieved the American dream. And I'm only going to say this in this live also. She's also a nurse. So, I am also proud of my daughter's profession. Now, the mother of the child is a dick leech. But, that's another reason why I'm proud of my daughter. I'm also proud that my daughter didn't have her daughter until she was 20 years old. Outside of the teen years. And this year my daughter's 38. And my oldest granddaughter just went off to college. Well, the funny thing is, there's that one part of me, it's like, if you actually got contact with your granddaughter, she could whip Shannon's son's ass. Thought about that. And that thought amuses me highly to no end, but once again, I know it would be a disruption of her life, so I will just sit here on the periphery and make sure that she's all right. We see Shannon's son's 18 and going to Cincinnati for some schooling too. And the funny thing is there's really, I don't want to say the whoosies and the whatsies, but I'm very, very sure that they're going to the same school. Now, my granddaughter doesn't have the same last name as I do, but she does have my same hair color. And she is very, very pretty. Yes, she is very, very pretty. Now, my two younger granddaughters, they took after their granddad. You know, they have their look. They're blondes, and they look just like their father. Well, no, she's not Rachel, but, you know, the fact of the matter is sometimes I have to put very little energy in things. Because, you see, I hated my father. God, I fucking hate him. I mean, even talking to him now, I want to say, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. But I did learn something from my father. Everyone loved my father. I was the only person my father was horrible to. Kind of doesn't make sense for you, does it? But no. But my father went around the universe, and everyone owed him. Now, I learned that at young. And there are many people in Cincinnati that owe me. I mean, they owe me big time. And I can call in those markers when I want. But see, the only reason why things like that weren't done is I ended up at 32, you know, 2 years younger than Leticia. My life was over and I started caregiving. And from 32 to 42, when people normally get married, have children, and settle down, I had to take care of my mother. And I didn't know it, but I was dying at the time too. And it finally got at some point, my body gave out. And I went emergency room into the hospital, and they admitted me. Because for years, I was dying of infection in a septic organ. But I still got up every day feeling unbelievably miserable. I mean, I can't relay the amount of suffering that I physically was in. There's no frame of reference for you to understand it. I mean, the pain was unimaginable. I mean, there was many days for a few years, it was hard to do this. I was so infected with that bad gallbladder in me. You see, at 5 years old, I told my mother, my tummy hurts. Shut up, you just don't want to go to school. No, my gut hurt. Right over here. It was my gallbladder. By 15, I started having full-blown gallbladder attacks. Once or twice a week, about 6 to 8 hours. I would be in unimaginable pain. They misdiagnosed me. They said, there's nothing wrong there. It's all in your head. And then they put me on Xanax. And that's how I found out that I have bad reactions to medications. Because it made me evil incarnate. You took the Xanax away, you took the evil away. I become no different than I am now. But, once again, their solution was to drug me. And for 3 years, they had me convinced that I was insane. That unimaginable pain here was in my head. And this was once or twice a week. So, you know, you say 52 weeks a year, 3 years. So for 156 weeks, they had me questioning my sanity. And then my Magus ego state finally decided that they are wrong. After 3 years, do not listen to them. The Xanax went zing, And I went like this right to the fucking doctor's faces, and I went back there. And no doctor would contradict the first doctors. And I had to live with that. And it destroyed my adult life. And it forced me to exist as a criminal, because when you're having gallbladder attacks once to twice a week, 6 to 8 hours, you can't get up at 6 a.m. and go to a job when you're still having that gallbladder attack from midnight. So, one other reason I have disabled, besides the PTSD, you can stab me and I don't know it. Because of all of the, that's where I joke, it's like all these Blake people think they're stuff. You can stab me and I will feel that as a pressure. Now, if it hits 8, 9, or 10, I feel that on the pain scale. But anything under 8, 9, or 10, I just feel as pressure. You know, I feel, hey, there's pain there. It's bad or unimaginable. But the low-level things of pain that you normally feel, they are nothing to me. I just feel them as pressure. When I moved down here, I mean, I had a big plastic wedge like this sticking in my back, about to pierce my skin. I drove 3 hours with that poking me in the back. And when I got up, I'm like, there's something poking me in the back. And then I pulled it out. And I mean, it was like embedded that far in my flesh. But, you know, that is what this experience did for me. Now, at 38 years old, there is repeated emergency room trips. In a Mount Vernon, Kentucky, at Rockcastle County Hospital, they told me, you have a bad gallbladder. And I went, yeah? I've only been saying this for 23 fucking years! Was my reaction. Oh yes, you fucking moron! And that's exactly as I said it in their fucking face. Yes. And then, it came to the doctoring. I had no insurance at the time. Well, a state program was going to pay for the surgery. And the doctor, I had to pay the doctor's fee. I had $600. That's all I had. You know, I was caregiving my mother. I had $600. He refused to do it. I want $1,200. There's nothing here. This is all I have. And over that $600, he refused to do the operation. That gallbladder was in for 4 fucking more years, about to kill me. And I got it out at 42. I've only had that damn thing out of me 12 years in my lifetime. So we have 27 years of me having a septic organ in me, progressively getting worse, about to kill me. And you know what? Nobody cared. Nobody, I didn't get any compensation. All the doctors covered for all the doctors. When I started having seizures, another misdiagnosis. My 2006 surgery, because of my condition, they fucked me up and covered it up again. And I have a new position. You know, I tell a doctor, you know, what I have told you and about these 3 life-destroying misdiagnoses. And I tell every doctor, if there is a 4th one, you will never misdiagnose anyone ever again. And I mean that too. I mean, you know, there's hard things in life. And if a doctor was ever to misdiagnose me and cover it up again, they will never misdiagnose anyone again. And this is what I tell to the doctor's face. But you know, this is what I have dealt with in my life. That is what forced me into a life of crime. My first therapist said, you're too old to do a life of crime anymore. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, my entire life, I had a weak spot. I mean, you hit me in that gallbladder, you won. So, my goal was to never have anyone hit me in that gallbladder. So in all of my combat, I literally was having to favor that one spot. And it's like right now, I grew up living with that weak point. I don't have that weak point anymore. My entire life up to 42, there was shit in my lungs. And I thought everyone had it. I never breathed free my entire life until my 40s. But once again, I don't say that I need to be given things for it. These are the things that I endured. They're not your fault. They're a doctor. And the other doctors that covered up for their doctors because they've got one big club. It wasn't a governmental experiency. It was because they would have been financially responsible for their libel. And no doctor was going to go in and testify against another doctor because they would end up banned at the country club. And that's the way that little doctor clique works. And that's why, as I said, any doctor, I don't currently have a doctor because the last one didn't fucking understand it either. You do not prescribe me medication without going it over me first. After I went over him, exactly all I went over with you this live. And then what did he do? Started calling me in medication. And then I said, you're not going to be my doctor. And I never went back. Because if I do, I would smash his head through a window. Because that's what I promised him. Because I told him that your head's going to go through a window before someone else's is. Let me tell you that right now. Because once again, my ego states, if there's something wrong with me, I understand that. And if I have the urge to do something, I'm not going to do it. But there are certain hard lines in my universe that, and one of them is a doctor. And this is why I have to have girl doctors. Because men doctors are arrogant assholes. They've got a God complex for the most part, and they don't seem to understand this English thing. And understand that if they were to make me hurt someone, I'm meeting them in the parking lot. By surprise. But once again, this is the suffering I went through in my lifetime. I don't blame society. There's specific segments of society that are responsible. And those are those individuals. Those doctors chose to lie. Because in 7 years when the statute of limitations passed, they skate on their criminality, including the last doctor that damaged me, that I'm dealing with health problems because of now. And he's lucky he's geriatric. Because if he was my age, they would have to catch me. But he should be dying about now. Because he was quite elderly at the time. And it's lucky for him. And I know from my therapist that catching me is a miracle. These ego states I got, this is one of the things where, I control me. I am capable of horrible, horrible things. But I don't. And that's one reason why my therapist, quote, proved to me I'm not a psychopath, and where my response is, you're fucking up a really good defense. And now I'm going to use this into another segue back into Leticia. She's laying out her crimes for us. That's pure premeditation. I mean, you can go away forever. And this is, once again, Leticia's type games the system. Like these women I tell you that game the system here and get all the help, and I'm basically screwed because of it. The reason why none of these churches ever helped me, I'm a man. All the meth moms, all the Leticias of the world go to all of these churches going, God help me, God help me, God help me. And God just enables them at that point. And once again, I know one of these girls. They get about $300 in food stamps. Some of them get, with a bunch of kids, 3 kids get $600 in food stamps. And then they sell that $600 for $300. And it's $25 for a quarter gram. So they sell their food stamps, that's 12 days of drugs. Because the churches and the grandparents will feed the kids. They'll also pay the rent. And once again, that rental assistance check, whatever they would normally have for rent, they would scam, that too goes for $25 a day. And with all of their stipends, they actually fits it to where they just got to sleep with guys that are doing drugs on the weekend. And they usually take them for money. And they're doing it for $25 a pop. Gets their drugs for one day. And through doing this, they can afford drugs, cigarettes, food, and to support their kids. And Roger here is literally left to die. Because the system has decided that these women like Leticia are the priority. And it is what it is. And Roger is going to go out and be sketchy as fuck. Now, once again, I'm going to do everything legal and above board whenever legal and above board works. But, at time, I'm going to be slightly, I should put it this way, slightly sketchy as fuck. But, once again, I'm going to go out there and do something for, to earn my bread. Now, see, this is something Leticia doesn't understand. When we were born, you're supposed to understand you earn your bread, not just given. Where Leticia's mommy, no doubt, is a backrider. Remember what I said during the 80s, where I lived in Cincinnati, they popped out 3, they got a free ride that was basically a low middle class lifestyle. And that's what Leticia wants to emulate in this age. Well, the system doesn't work exactly like that. So, but once again, I'll hook up with me a military man. And that was her plan. And you see, Leticia is not the first person to do this. The military has seen this more than millions of times. The young men actually get warnings of creatures like Leticia. Now, many young men that didn't get any exploit their military service for sexual favors and to exploit the sluts like Leticia that are trying to exploit them. Once again, Roger logic. 2 horrible people trying to use each other. Whatever! It's like Amberlynn and her girlfriend now. You see, I might have done Amberlynn content if Amberlynn was hooked up with an innocent person. But Amberlynn is hooked up with a using grifter. Amberlynn is a using person. So once again, 2 horrible people are in orbit of each other, and all I can say is I hope they smash into each other. All I have to say. But once again, this baby in Leticia is not a horrible person. It does not deserve to be smashed, and everything that Leticia said can 100% be taken as premeditation and understanding completely what she has done, what she's doing, and what she plans on doing. That is every condition that you need for a capital crime. So, this is where I'm going to go here in a minute, and this is where I've been wrapping up the whole stories with me. Once again, Leticia is using men. She's using Christianity, just as the meth whores do around here. And once again, to one of them, I see how this works. And now and then, Leticia has hit a meth pipe. I can tell her eyes when she does that. She looks just like a McCoy. Because, when they show up here, they're usually lit on it. Usually, not always. Usually. It is what it is. Now, you see, when she sees this, that's when she's hooked up with a guy. And they partied a bit. Yesterday, I hooked up with a woman of lesser virtue. And she does that sort of thing. Okay, let it go. But once again, Leticia is going to keep using this baby. Now, once she has learned this works, she is, quote, going to stay pregnant. If she's pregnant or not. Now, I'm very interested in the due date because they got it at a September 4th, and we've got July, June, July, and August. Now, she's referring to herself as 6 months now, where she's almost 6 months. And I think there was really a good chance she was pregnant before she ever met Mr. Soldier Man or the 3 others. I just guarantee that, she wanted her hookups. And as I said before, typically what a lot of these whores do, give me money for the morning after. And then they put it in their pocket. And that's what Leticia did to this guy, no doubt. In my opinion. I'd like to see a receipt on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what she's done. Because Leticia told a story once. She got mad because the guy took her there. He bought it and watched her take it. And she was pissed fucking off. And that was my clue on what Leticia's doing. I need the day after pill. And she gets 50 more bucks for her $25 whore job. And the fact of the matter is, Miss Let It Go, is this is what she's doing. When I see these eyes, that means she's hooked up with a guy and she's partied a little bit. Because you see, I don't buy that kind of stuff, but the lovely and beautiful Desiree does. And I hooked up with her, and the funny thing is, this time she had the weed too. I mean, oh my God, think about it, I was horribly dependent. Yes, I was horribly dependent thinking about it. Yes, Jude, I think so too. And it was a manhunt, because it's what I call the Teresa effect. You see, I knew some of these grifting women in Ohio. Now, they weren't whores, but they were grifting women. And Teresa was one of them. She was over 6 feet tall, and once again, she used that statuesque Amazon body to exploit men. And I used to joke with one of my friends who had a crush on her. I'm like, eventually she has to settle. Because you can only grift on a bar stool for so long. Now, her friend was a nurse. And this is what her friend would do is say, I need an abortion. She would hook up with men, fuck them, and then grift them for $320-some for an abortion that she didn't need. And she was an RN, a registered nurse, making good money, and sharing an apartment with the other friend that I mentioned, the one that I talked about that I knew eventually would have to settle. And every other week, she was grifting a guy out of $300-some for a fake abortion. And that funded her bar habit. And she'd go out Friday night, Saturday night, and Wednesday, drinking and dancing. And that one girl that I mentioned that I said eventually have to settle, she had 2 younger sisters that were both hot. And they did the same thing. And there was one day, when they were talking about, sitting there, just sitting there, we're smoking a joint. They're sitting there in their little, on their big, long, expensive, few $1,000 couch, laughing about what they do with men. And I took the joint and hit it, pass it over to one of them, and like, you know, if any woman was ever to do that to me, I'd have to shoot them in the face. That ended their laughter at that point. But, you know, I was just pointing at them that, you know, one of these times, one of these men might just find out and take offense to that. And that was my rattlesnake point to them that day. You know, I was watching all four of them together. I mean, and the two younger ones are severely hot. I mean, severely. And I was watching Liz in her little leather skirt giggling, and, you know, I handed that joint over to her, and that's why I looked at her right now. I was like, you know, if you did that to me, I'd have to shoot someone in the face. Hello, Jen Jen. We're talking about horrible women that exploit men, and why can't it be rich life? Actually, I'm getting ready to get off here and get into my real life and do the work. This will be posted, by the way. But in reality, there's nothing important in this live. I mean, once again, you know, not to discount myself, it was mainly Roger bullshitting and comparing Roger's bad happenings to Leticia, and Roger doesn't expect anything from anyone, and I'm not asking for. You know, it's like YouTube, the only thing I ever asked, if you like my content and you really enjoy the channel, maybe flip me a meal sometime. And that's basically it. Hello, Sasha. Well, this will be posted. Now, the way YouTube is doing and the way that they're so on terms of service, I have all my lives set to private, and then I unprivate them instantly. But I have found with Jen Jen talking to me, YouTube isn't putting them right back up like they used to. They've apparently are taking some lag time. So even though you know, within, like when we cut this off, within 3 minutes, I'll have this set to public and saved on the channel. It seems to be taking a little time on YouTube. So if you didn't catch all of the live, as I mentioned, we just compared Leticia to me, and I mean, I'm sick of hearing her threaten the baby. Let's just put it that way. You know, and I've kept this as a under 18 because there's so many newer people to Leticia going to come in. So I had to heavily edit myself this live. By the way, now some Leticia lives are going to be 18 plus. And we will talk more of the hard stuff. But you know, this one I have kept everything PG-13 for the most part. Or at least tried to. Now, Leticia is going to be grifting more, and she'll get her YouTube money. Now, I'm trying to think. Now, Rich Life, off of around a 4,000 subscriber channel with super chats, was making around $600 to $1,200 a month off of YouTube. $1,200 being the best. Now, with her super chats off, she's not going to be making that. And that's basically it, Rachel. You know, I have basically laid things I've had to do in my life because none of us are owed anything. You know, it's now the way things have gotten hard in life. I mean, that's why I don't even put up my P.O. box, because everyone's hurting at this point. I mean, severely. You know, with what's happening in the world. You know, Let It Go had me put it up here. But other than that, I've only put it up now after this live twice this year. Because everything's hard for people. And we all have to. And like I said, you know, I might be worth a handful of White Castles. You know, that's all I think my content is worth, maybe, is a handful of White Castles at some point. And that's it. But, you know, Leticia thinks that I deserve compensated. I explained what happened with my gallbladder. I had a bad organ in me, 27 years. Destroyed my adult working life. It's why I get so little on disability. If it wasn't for that, I would get more on disability because I would have got my 40 quarters in. And I would have at least got a few hundred more off of Social Security just off of that. But that was a doctor that did to me. A rich fucking doctor. It's not society's fault. It's the doctor's fault. And the ones that covered up for him. It's no one else's fault. But Leticia thinks that she's owed everything. I was taught, like playing poker. You get a hand dealt to you. Sometimes this hand sucks. But you still play your hand as best you can. And to be honest, I'm really good at poker. I mean, I can take absolutely nothing in my hand and get everyone else to fold. Because confidence. Now, that's one thing that many people hate me on YouTube for, is my personal confidence. I can sit there with shit I can have nothing in my hand but a high card. And I can take that and bluff myself to a win. Because it's a game of poker. But you see, that's how the game's played. Now, the game of life, it's not handed to you. You got to get off your ass and go do it. And Leticia is not into that. So I'm going to leave this as a final thoughts, and I'm going to get off here, and I'm going to go make myself some tea. Now, I do have some chicken bouillon. So I'm going to go in the other room. I'm going to heat up a pot of water. I'm going to throw a few bouillon cubes in it. And it's not going to be any real calories, but I'll at least have something that'll make myself feel like I had something. But I'm not going to wait for God or anyone else to float a dinner down into my lap. I'm going to go make some chicken broth. And that's what I'll have today. And then tomorrow I'll have the spaghetti. And then Tuesday I'll just do fucking without and look forward to Wednesday morning. Now everyone, thank you for coming. But I only talked about me this time because I wanted to compare Leticia to me and expectations versus reality. The old saying, buyer beware. That is something we're supposed to learn, final thought. This is something we're supposed to learn young. That expectations versus reality are always two things. Now, thank you for coming, and you'll see me at 9 o'clock on an 18 Plus Live, and we'll talk about Boyd shit, and we'll be nasty to each other. Now, everyone, thank you for coming.